Fit, active, healthy, happy, enjoying the prime of your life. Looking out for your health and wellness, this is Health Talk with Fred Lowry from Lowry Drug in Statesville. Visit Fred at his store, conveniently located on Hartness Road in Statesville.
Good afternoon. This is Fred Lowry, pharmacist and doctor of natural medicine, Lowry Drug in Statesville, North Carolina. And this is Health Talk, exploring the facets of your health and keeping you up to date and informed. This episode was pre-recorded for December the 17th, 2025. The year is almost gone. So, first, one quick thing from the Children's Health Defense of something that probably wasn't in the news. The FCC has new proposed rules that will give the wireless industry dictatorial control of cell towers, giving them the right to place them anywhere that they choose, and there would virtually be nothing you could do to stop them. So this is actually a plea to contact your local officials to notify the FCC. Also, you can submit a comment to the FCC's website. The best way to find all this information is go to the Children's Health Defense and look up the article from December 4th. Tell the FCC to stop cell towers in your neighborhood. So that could dramatically impact schools, and there are a lot of individuals that are very sensitive to these electromagnetic fields. I ran across a blog talking about the crash no one sees coming, the food system failure, or I would change it maybe to the crash that no one saw coming. This was written by Madge Waggy, and it's talking about this concept of the culling of millions of chickens, ramping up testing for cattle for bird flu, increasing acreage, going towards renewable energy. And it, of course, has concern about our food security. Cites the 1958 to 1962 famine in China that was apparently took the lives of 45 million people at one time. It said it was an unnecessary event. You know, I don't think any of us can really imagine the concept of losing 45 million people. But the interesting thing I found in this article was, according to the United Nations World Food Programs, that famine is declared when malnutrition is widespread and when people have started dying from starvation through a lack of access to sufficiently nourishing food. And that kind of struck a nerve with me, because I think that it's at some level we have a lot of, if you want to call it famine or malnutrition. This broad umbrella of famine, you could easily argue that the United States is already experiencing that famine at some level. So, when you look at an example of American cheese slapped between two pieces of pasty Wonder Bread in a plastic baggie, is that a nourishing food? It fills up the stomach, perhaps, or satisfies some of your brain chemistry. We've gone to the extent, obviously, of having EBT or food stamps to help people that don't have the resources for food, but then they're allowed to purchase anything, and that's, of course, a social commentary. But we can be full of these cheese puff things or fast food, lots of calories, little actual food value, and I think that's an issue. So I think we probably do have people that whose health is compromised greatly by the food choices that they eat, and that's not hard to see. Another interesting thing in the news, there was a study that dramatically increases the percentage of U.S. adults that meet the definition of obesity. This is from Mercole. It says nearly 7 out of 10 adults now meet the criteria for obesity under a new comprehensive definition from JAMA's Network Open Endocrinology. So this captures millions of Americans whose weight appears normal. That's kind of interesting, but whose fat distribution signals a higher risk for metabolic diseases. Obesity means more than just carrying extra weight. It affects the buildup of body fat and disrupts how your cells use energy. Even with a normal BMI, body mass index, fat that gathers deep in your abdomen and around organs releases inflammatory chemicals that impairs insulin function, raises blood pressure, and adds strain to your heart and your liver. So, we think of fat as being innocuous, but fat does produce inflammatory chemicals. It actually produces hormones, including estrogen, and so it's more than just an appearance kind of issue, obviously. So this health issue with obesity can create fatigue after meals, blood sugar, blood pressure issues. But for decades, we basically were looking at body mass index, which is a height and weight table, but that doesn't really show the full picture. So the new guidelines classifies obesity not just using body mass index, but hip to waist ratio measures related to body fat, which is kind of interesting. So apparently, this under this new definition, if you only use BMI, only about around 43% of adults are characterized as obese. Now that's a pretty big number. But now with this new criteria, it's pushing 69%, which is unbelievable. And another measure said that 78% of Americans aged 70 and older meet the criteria for obesity, which is double the previous estimates. So part of this could be age-related, but this fat distribution, not the total weight situation, is what's driving this problem with metabolism. You've got fat that wraps around organs, and this fat is metabolically active, as we mentioned before. So it's kind of interesting, particularly when we look at what the new measurements. They're measuring waist to hip ratios, and they don't want a waist to hip ratio. They want it less than 1. That's interesting. Stay tuned for more health talk. Welcome back to Health Talk. This is Fred Lowry, talking about this new guideline of waist to hip ratio. Sounds like a good thing, but if you're in the category of waist to hip ratio, low risk is less than 0.95. So, and high risk is greater than a ratio of 1. So if your hips are 40 inches and your waist is 40 inches, you're at high risk. Ideal is supposed to be 0.8, so that would be, as an example, 32-inch waist with a 41-inch hip. I think that's going to put a lot of people in that category, and I'm not sure that tells the whole story, because it has nothing to do necessarily with body composition. Muscle mass, one thing that happens is, as an example, as men age, they lose their gluteal muscle, so that could affect that hip ratio a little bit. But certainly there are a lot of individuals that are going to be classified as obese in that category, and the other thing that comes to mind with that is it certainly opens up a new group of people that would be diagnosed as obese and then be eligible for other prescription treatments, such as the GLP-1s. And that's one of the things that's happened that I've seen over the years, particularly with cholesterol medicine. I remember an article a few years back that when they the last change in cholesterol guidelines, the article was basically saying, well, we need another X number of million people on cholesterol medicine so that we can impact heart disease in this country. And that I found that to be a curious thing. So when we talk about weight and the foods, I mentioned the Wonder Bread concept. Certainly empty carbohydrates are problematic related to weight. And we often talk about gluten-free. That's kind of a buzzword, and you'll see the words gluten-free on packaging that wouldn't have any gluten in it to begin with. So, of course, gluten is a group of proteins that are found in grains like wheat, barley, rye, triticale. There's also some in oats. But it's a protein that it's very elastic and it improves bread quality. And then you have on the far end of that where people have actually an autoimmune disease called celiac, and that's a terrible disease, but that is a very serious genetically predisposed illness associated with gluten that prompts the immune system to attack the intestines. So the little villi of the finger-like projections in the small intestine end up getting destroyed, which leads to malnutrition. And on the far end of that, individuals can't really absorb nutrients, and then they have to be on something called TPN, total parenteral nutrition, where basically they're fed intravenously. But the gluten thing is everyone actually sensitive to gluten, and there's an article from Mercola that talk about sometimes gluten sensitivity has little to do with the gluten itself, and basically it can be other things in the bread. So, the gluten gets a bad reputation for everything from bloating to brain fog, and we've had this rise of gluten-free products, and it's supposed to be the culprit behind every digestive issue, which is not. So particularly people that may have discomfort after eating bread or pasta and assume that gluten is the cause. There's mounting evidence that suggests the story is far more complex, which most stories are, and So what could be happening is how your body's actually processing the carbohydrates there, and how your brain interprets digestive signals. The question isn't whether gluten is harmful, but actually what's happening to your body when you eat that food that contains it. As a side note, we have the breads that we have are heavily preserved. They don't mold as quickly as breads of yesteryear, with the exception of breads that are not preserved. Ezekiel bread is one which has to be kept in the freezer and in the refrigerator. But even if you leave it in the refrigerator long enough, you will see mold there. So you have chemicals that deal with that. Which the other thing I'd mention, of course, Ezekiel bread is a more nutritious bread. Some people don't like it because of its consistency. But then the other thing that happens with bread is the wheat in the field sprayed with fungicides, and they're also often sprayed with glycophosphates as a quote-unquote drying agent. So you potentially have Roundup on your wheat, and that's been found in all kinds of places, including baby cereals, and that interferes with the bacteria in your gut and inhibits your liver function. The study about this gluten was a study published in the Lancet. They looked at studies that involved adults with discomfort of eating gluten foods, and tested them for celiac disease or wheat allergies. And so during the study, apparently it said a range of only 16 to 30% actually had symptoms directly caused by gluten. So these were people that were having digestive issues, and so the majority felt unwell for other reasons, sometimes due to the components in the wheat or fermentable carbohydrates, known as FODMAPs. Y'all may have heard that term. It's fermentable type sugars, basically, that are in these foods that creates gas, and sometimes people end up with small intestine bacterial overgrowth, known as SIBO, which is generally treated with antibiotics. So these FODMAP foods are abundant in foods like wheat, onions, garlic, beans. They draw water into your intestine and create gases they ferment, leading to bloating and cramping. So these low FODMAP diets, in some cases, were more effective than the gluten-free diets. So there are sugars or fructans found in which are FODMAP type foods found in wheat that can cause more symptoms than the gluten itself. There's also this concept of a nocebo effect that plays a powerful role in gluten intolerance. Nocebo is the opposite of placebo. So placebo, if you take something and you have good expectations, then you could have a positive outcome. And then the nocebo effect means you think something is not good for you, so you have a negative reaction to that, even though it may be generally innocuous, which is pretty fascinating in terms of expectations. But it says that researchers found that when participants didn't know whether they were eating gluten or had the placebo, which I find a little curious how they were able to pull that off, symptoms, the differences nearly disappeared. Those expecting gluten to make them sick developed discomfort even when they consumed gluten-free foods. Which they're assuming that it's the nocebo effect. However, there still could be things in those foods that are problematic for those individuals. So it may not be completely that. And I know that sometimes the mistake people make is they go gluten free. They're allergic to wheat. They think it's primarily the gluten. They go gluten free, but then they're still eating all those carbs and things that are bread like or wheat like, and they still have health problems. So making that switch is an issue. So these gluten-free products, obviously they're made to sell, to market to people that think that's an issue. So the review identified several reasons why gluten-free diets make people feel better, even when the gluten isn't the problem. Cutting the gluten usually means removing processed high FODMAP foods that strain digestion. People tend to eat more whole fruits and vegetables, more mindful about their food and digestion. Other reasons. Coming up on a break, stay tuned for Health Talk. This is Fred Lowry.
Doctor, my eyes have seen the years and the slow parade of fears without
Welcome back to
crying.
Health Talk.
Now I
This is Fred
want
Lowry,
to understand.
pharmacist and doctor of natural medicine of Lowry Drug in Statesville. Lowry Drug on Harkness Road in Statesville was established in 1959. We're a traditional family pharmacy with a state-of-the-art compounding laboratory. We offer a full line of medical equipment and supplies, including CPAP, scooters, lift chairs, and oxygen. We have a full line of supplements, nutritionals, herbs, essential oils, homeopathics, and more. If you're an individual that has need of compounding products, we have done that for many years, more years probably than anyone in the general area. We are licensed in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Florida to ship products there as well. Give us a call. We were talking about gluten-related and foods and digestive issues. Certainly, one of the things to always keep in mind that your potential for your health lies within your gut, and that's really the key to most health issues. If you have issues with your gut, your ability to digest food, absorb food, eliminate waste, then you're not going to be healthy. And so that is very much a starting point. And so we have a lot of people that take antacids. They have indigestion. So think about that. You've lost the ability to digest the food that you just ate. Is that because of the foods you chose? Did you chew your food properly? Are you in a situation that is not conducive to digestion? But just at that basic level, there is something wrong. And when you intervene with that, with drugs like proton pump inhibitors, omeprazole, pantoprazole, those type of medications, you're compromising the ability of your entire system. I ran across another article related to, this was also from McCullough, that talks about common medications that can disrupt your gut health for years. So, years ago, you're a child, you take an antibiotic, let's just say, or maybe it was very common in my era for teens to take antibiotics for acne. They took tetracycline, doxycycline every day, which seemed to help their acne, but probably compromised their gut for really a lifetime. So the concept here is that just because you take a medication and you finish the medication doesn't mean that it doesn't have some lasting impact on your entire system. And so who you are right now, you could go back even further, is the culmination of everything that's happened to you since conception. There's things that happen in utero. There's things that your mother may have been exposed to, either chemical-wise or emotionally, whatever. And a lot of these experiences that the mother may have impacts that fetus, certainly. So what she feels, at some level, the fetus would feel as well. So when you reach for that bottle of medication that's supposed to target with what's wrong, it's designed to work on the intended problem. Here it passes through one of the most complex and delicate ecosystems in your body, your gut. There's trillions of bacteria that live there collectively known as the gut microbiome, and they do a lot of things that we can't even imagine, really. There's a digestive issue to it. They train your immune system. They protect your gut lining. They manufacture vitamins. They protect against pathogens. They help regulate your metabolism. They may even influence your mood and your mental health. So when this gut microbiome is disrupted, it affects nearly every aspect of your well-being. So you're not only what you eat, but your microbes that you're feeding are impacted by what you eat. And they're also impacted by whatever toxins are absorbed there. So it's a environment, it's a terrain, if you will, where that bacteria lives, and so this is just unbelievably complex, basically. Researchers from the University of Tartu in Estonia investigated how deeply and persistently common medications can disturb this internal world. They reveal that gut bacteria don't simply bounce back after a course of treatment when it ends. The microbiome, they say, has a memory, and the medications you've taken throughout your life may have shaped it in ways that persist long after bottles are empty. In February of 22, there was this landmark study published in Nature. This was data from Estonia Biobank, Europe's most extensive population health database. They wanted to uncover how past drug exposures continue to influence the gut microbiome years after you finish treating that. So, of course, we can connect, I think, with people that have had long-term antibiotic use, and certainly that's a big impact. But what about maybe short-term? So this was a large-scale analysis that revealed there's lasting microbial imprint. They actually analyzed stool samples and medical records from 2,509 adults, combining genetic sequencing with up to a decade of electronic data health to determine how medication history reshapes the microbial ecosystem over time. Antibiotics seem to show the strongest and lasting effects. Participants who had not taken antibiotics for at least 6 months showed measurable microbial differences compared to those that had never used them. So 6 months later, after an antibiotic, there's differences in the microbial population. The results indicated the effects that antibiotics extend well beyond treatment, altering community structure gut microbes long after the drugs have cleared the body. Even a few antibiotic courses were enough to shift these microbes. Significant changes in microbial composition appeared after as few as 3 or 4 antibiotic courses. It's also noted that Estonia is among the lowest antibiotic consuming nations in Europe, suggesting probably even a stronger effect for other populations, including the United States. The effects of the antibiotic overuse on normal microbial community structure and health have been reported in both humans and mice. It's shown that after antibiotic treatment, some members of the microbial community do not recover to pre-treatment levels and disappear from the community indefinitely. This is going to be more interesting. Hang on, stay tuned for Health Talk.
Doctor, my eyes have seen the years and the slow parade of fear.
Welcome back to Health Talk. Fred Lowry, pharmacist and doctor of natural medicine. We're talking about this concept of medications that impact the gut health for months after you've discontinued those medications, and it does make sense. A lot of people don't realize that the things we've been exposed to, we probably, in terms of bacteria and viruses, we probably never completely get rid of those. There's plenty of examples of that, including Epstein-Barr virus, which is the monovirus, or people that if you had that as a teen, it can actually have an impact on your immune health later. It's very typical to see Lyme's patients that had a history of Epstein-Barr virus. So you can also think about herpes zoster, another virus. So these things are there. Your immune system just keeps that in check. So repeated antibiotic use can cause cumulative disruption. It's a stronger issue with the microbiome, and it can be additive. And there's findings that provide clear evidence that repeated antibiotic use accumulates its effects over time. So medication history distorts this microbiome disease association. So when you look at prior antibiotic use, this revealed that this past antibiotic exposure is a major confounding factor in microbiome research, which must be accounted for in order to avoid misleading conclusions. So what that means is, if you're doing research on gut bacteria, I mean, where's your starting point there? This history becomes a tremendous thing, and so it's very complex. So not only does antibiotic use play a role in it, but then you could get into the toxic exposure of chemicals like glycophosphates can have antibacterial effect. Petroleum products, metals, all kinds of things that impact that gut, including all the foods that we eat. Another interesting thing is that there are drugs that are not antibiotics that seem to alter gut composition. That includes antidepressants, beta blockers, steroids, and those were associated with measurable microbial shifts. They're not as great as the antibiotics, of course. So read that word, it just reminds me, antibiotic means against life, antibios, so to speak. So, but these drugs still contribute to changes in the microbes and metabolic function. So when you combine lifestyle and the medication data, you maybe get an idea of the variation. So integrating the medication history with lifestyle clinical records, the researchers could explain more than 10% of the variation in this gut microbial composition. The study provided compelling evidence that the gut retains a biological memory of past drug exposure. It demonstrates that long-term medication history and current medication can play a decisive role in that overall bacterial makeup. The latest research from this University of in Estonia Institute for Genomics reveals how a wide range of commonly prescribed medications, not just antibiotics, leave lasting microbial imprints. It was published in the Journal of M Systems this was a first large-scale systematic evaluation of how long-term medications affect gut microbiome across hundreds of prescribed drugs. So they looked at with their research. They followed 328 individuals over an average of 4.4 years, collecting microbial samples and monitoring how starting and stopping specific drugs changed the bacterial composition. The team went to identify the cause and effect relationships with the outcomes of these patients. So that most drugs produce measurable microbial changes. Out of 186 medications analyzed, nearly 90% were linked to measurable changes in the gut microbiome. 46.7% produce effects that persisted even after the drug was discontinued. So nearly half of the drugs taken had lasting effects after they were discontinued, which means even after there's not any of that drug left in the body. Brain and heart medications left distinct microbial fingerprints. So what it's saying is the different drugs altered different bacteria. Antidepressants, the benzodiazepines, proton pump inhibitors that I mentioned earlier, steroids produce some of the most recognizable and persistent microbial changes. These microbial fingerprints were so distinct that the researchers could infer past medication based solely on the microbial composition. So they could do samples because they had the background of what changes happen with different drugs. And they could do a sample and know what that individual had taken years before. That's pretty interesting. So when researchers compared how much of the microbiome's variation was explained by medication use, they found that past drug exposure accounted for more differences in microbial profiles than even current medication. Long-term medication use explained is 0.74% microbial variance compared with 0.47. Now that doesn't sound like much, but it's basically doubled. The interesting thing is that the benzodiazepines cause some of the most extensive microbial changes. So that would be like alprazolam, diazepam, those medications that are used for anxiety. So the long-term impact resembled the disruption typically seen in broad-spectrum antibiotics. So you're getting kind of the same impact with these, and it does bring up a question when you relate mood and things related to the gut, that the gut does influence. So you've got this brain-gut axis where drugs that calm the brain also impact the bacteria there. That's almost mind-blowing to me, but I guess it does follow some logic there. So there are distinct microbial shifts. Researchers have noted they've taken into account the rise in popularity of the benzodiazepines. They've been popular. There's no rise there. It's been popular there for years. But how in the world that has impacted? So taking medical history is really important to see what has happened in the past, and understanding, did this person have a lot of drug history? What happened when they were a child? All these things become really important in shaping and understanding what has happened to this individual and where they are now. So when you look at individual history of a person, their medical history, their social history, their family history, and all these things have come together to make who they are at this point in time. And I think that's one of the things that we're missing in medicine. We're just treating what is presented in that 5 to 15 minute session without really understanding who that person is. So we're treating the illness, not the individual with the illness. And that's an important distinction, I think, in terms of being able to solve a health issue and bring that person to a better point of wellness. So part of this, of course, relates to rebuilding the gut, getting rid of stressors, all the things that go into improving diet, etc. So it's just something to keep in mind, consider. Wish you all the best. Have a great weekend. Tune in again for Health Talk. This is Fred Lowry.